Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Cana, New York at the Love's gas station. Remotely located here because the internet blackout. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam, and welcome to Walk on Wednesday. Walk on Wednesday is the day of the week. Every day is a magical day here at our podcast. Wednesday is the day we bring on a person with an interesting story. And today we have a very special guest from the Bhakti Center in New York City, Doyal Garanga. Doyal, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Raghunath. So good to be here. I love, you've got like your screen reflecting off your window in the background. Looks like you're in a recording studio. Looks very professional.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
That's pretty cool. I'm just in a gas station. That's how we roll in upstate New York. We're just pulling into gas stations. Oh, well, welcome, Doyal. I've known Doyal for a long time, Kaustubha. You know that?
Yeah, sure. I've known him a long time too.
I've known him longer.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I did. He sang at my wedding. He chanted at my wedding.
Nice.
When he was Bhakta Dave.
Oh, maybe you have. It's possible.
I've known him from California.
Oh yeah, from California. You have known him longer than me.
Are you a Californian? Right. You're a Californian, right?
Yeah.
Me?
No, not Kaustubha. We know that. Doyal, you're a Californian.
Yeah, my whole life I grew up in Southern California until I was, I was 20. I was 23 when I moved to New York. 23, and you were brahmachari. I never thought I would leave California.
You were a brahmachari for a long time too, right?
A total of 10 years. I was 5 years in Laguna Beach and then 5 years in New York.
And you get extra credit because you were brahmachari getting trained by Tukaram Prabhu. So that's like adding another 5 years to your life of brahmachari.
Yeah, those were
double.
double.
Get Tukaram on the show. He's a genius master, and entertaining like anything. Well, welcome, Kaustubha. You want to pick his?
Sure.
Pick it.
Well, Doyal Garanga, he's like an essential person at the Bhakti Center, and of course, for those who aren't familiar, the Bhakti Center is it's a cultural center in New York City. 6 stories of Bhakti yoga culture being presented to the world, and all the more to the world since COVID has set in and so much of the programming has gone online. Doyal Garanga, he's been there for years, been an essential player in the project, and currently he's really overseeing so much of the programming that goes on there. And so we just wanted to bring Doyal on and say hello. Now, of course, Doyal also is a person that when we do our retreats, like when we do them in India, we're still hoping to do that one in India in January. But he's one of the teachers there, one of the favorite, everybody loves his class. Many people here, we got Vivi here, Nicole here, they've all taken his classes.
He's beloved. He's beloved.
He's beloved. He's a great teacher. But I think especially we wanted to bring you on, Doyal, in relation to the Bhakti Center, and maybe that you could just, we could bring a little awareness to what's happening there, and maybe you could share some of the things that are even happening, like the things that people could catch online right now if they wanted to go there.
Yeah, sure. So you want me to say a little bit about the Bhakti Center? And
Sure.
then, so, yeah, so I mean, as we know, Kaustubha also is actually a founding member of the Bhakti Center many, many years ago, a native New Yorker. And as you mentioned, it's a place really, it's a place where we can kind of come and see what it means to practice bhakti in a community. I mean, even looking around here on this Zoom board, we see people from all over the world. There's from Portugal, from Germany, from South America, all kinds of places. But really, bhakti is something that needs to be practiced in community with other people as much as possible. And so we're just one place where we try to create an environment where people can come together and actually receive education, receive friendships and relationships in community,
Hmm.
and also get a sense of what it means to practice these ancient um, spiritual principles, in a modern context, in a way where we're preserving that ancient um, spiritual foundation, but also understanding what it means to apply it in 2020 in New York City and in a modern age.
Right.
So that's kind of what we're trying to do, balancing that ancient practice with modern application in a way that preserves the substance, but at the same time makes it accessible for people.
I like that.
I like that. I like
You-
you.
I like you, Raghu.
I like you too. I didn't like what you said so much, but I like you.
So, as I mentioned, I think the Bhakti Center, we were before COVID, we were averaging about 9 programs a day in the center. Isn't that right?
Yeah,
If,
if you include our yoga classes,
yeah,
yeah,
yoga
we
classes,
we 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 had
meditation
we had, we had, we
classes.
had a lot going on. We've got about like 5 or so program spaces, and it was always a crunch. Like space was always short,
Yeah,
because
and
there was
that's
so many things that were going on that were full, and
right.
we have
And now,
yeah.
and now, of course, Bhakti Center has been the doors have been closed
Yeah, we've
since
been
March.
closed since March. We were one of
Who
those things. It
stays
was
in the
like,
building? Who stays in the building?
There's some staff there. People that live in the building stay there.
yeah, we have residential quarters for people that live in there, kind of like an ashram lifestyle. And so a few people have displaced, and people are like, I'm getting out of New York.
Right.
Um,
Well, yeah, I get that.
I like it in New York, though. I've been in Brooklyn. I visit my wife a few times. I mean, my wife's family. We stay together in Brooklyn, but my wife and I will visit her family in New Jersey, and she likes it up there because there's more space. And I'm like, I miss Brooklyn. I want to be in New
Yeah.
York.
Can't imagine a Californian loving New York.
It took a little time, but I grew on me.
Okay. Because
So,
Stupa, yeah, 'cause he's one of those guys. It's sort of like he's a New Yorker, doesn't like to leave New York. He's there. It's like the best place in the unit. New Yorkers are like that. Like they can't go anywhere else. Like nothing's outside of New York.
any
Bad things
case,
happen when you leave the city. That's what
bad
I've
things
learned from
happen when you
Kaustubha.
leave the city.
That's
Yeah,
what I learned
that's
from
that's what they
Kaustubha.
say. But the doors have been closed, but in one sense it kind of gave us a kickstart because you and I and some others, they were always talking, hey, we got to get more stuff up online, right? And
Yeah, it was like 9 months ago. Kaustubha's like, online is the future. Like, we gotta get online, and we're like, get out of here. Like, what are you talking about? Blah 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 blah. And here's COVID, and he's like, I told you we should have been online. Now we're scrambling to get up there and get going.
I tried never to say I told you so.
We're all scrambling, aren't we? The whole
Yeah.
material world is like a scramble.
Okay, Rocco, you're scrambling our conversation.
Sorry.
No problem.
Just trying
But
trying to be part of the gang. In the conversation.
I'm just trying to steer towards the plug. Okay.
Okay.
That
Well,
door.
I-
Could you share with us some of the great things that are happening at the Bhakti Center that people might tune into? Just some of the things, because there's so much going on.
Yeah, totally. I mean, one thing that we have every week we have a Wednesday. A friend of ours, Ganesham, was on the show. He was one of the first guests a while back.
Yeah, we featured him. He was the
Featured him.
essential worker who's working at the
Essential
New York
worker.
Presbyterian Hospital.
Yeah, and he and a couple other friends of ours run a weekly. It's called In Spirit, or Life, Death, and the Moments in Between. It began as like a end of life doula program, but really it's a discussion group with different topics and speakers to discuss about end of life care, both for the caregivers and people transitioning in that phase of life. So it's a free online weekly event that takes place that for some is especially relevant in these times. Takes place every Wednesday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We also
That's a, you know, it's an incredible program. The people that are all involved in are professionals and they really know their stuff, but they're all really good-hearted people. If someone in your life is passing away, it's always challenging for people, and that's a form where you can just come in there, get great advice, get inspiration about how to, you know, help your family, help your loved one, help yourself get through those times. So that's a really great program.
yeah. We also have our good friend Yogi Charu, who was here on the show a little while ago also. He's been doing all kinds of meditation teacher trainings online. He's got a Prana Vidya meditation training coming up in August. We also have a really good pranayam training coming up in September also. So we got a few trainings, how to calm the mind and how to kind of get into your meditation practice. And then I'm actually leading a course. I just finished it, but I'm doing it again. It's a 3-part series called The Mood of Sacred Study. It was really inspired from when we were in January and I was teaching, you know, part of our wisdom training. And just this idea of so many people more and more so wanting to study and wanting to look at ancient texts and Vedic literatures. And so I kind of like was going through and just kind of finding verses about the mood of approaching study, what it means to approach study in a way that actually will allow the knowledge to absorb into our hearts.
You know, so amazing, Doyle. Like for years, you just sort of studied as a monk under Tukaram's tutelage as well. And who would think that the Bhakti community would be so big? You think you're just studying for the sake of studying, but now, because of all that study, and not just study, but applying the study, you become such an empowered teacher. You did your time, man.
I don't know about that, but I
left him speechless.
left me speechless, Raghu.
So you know, and maybe just real quick, you could also share about the community groups at the Bhakti Center, which is something that was really initiated by your wife.
Definitely, yeah. We actually have a beginning Bhakti community group coming up. It just started yesterday, actually. It's a little full, which is why I didn't mention it. So I don't know if we have new ones coming up, but we do have community groups. It's kind of like the fabric of the community in a way where they used to be in person, now they're all online, but they're free weekly groups that take the course of about 3 months or so. They're usually anywhere from like 10 to 15 people that have a facilitator. And you read through, you know, there's different levels. There's one group that just kind of reads through the Bhagavad Gita. There's another level that reads through other various, you know, Bhakti texts or books written by spiritual authors in the Bhakti tradition. And you know, it's more of a discussion format. You know, we have so many classes where we're getting information and people are speaking to us and we're taking it in, and those are nourishing. Yeah. But it's very easy to get lost in the shuffle and not make any one-on-one connections with the people around you. So This is the way that it's kind of meant to take small groups of people, bring them together, and it's a closed group. So, you know, hey, these people commit to me. Once it starts, you know, new people don't come in, that you can actually build off of what you're reading and studying from the previous week. And it's really meant to really foster relationships in our community. And for some people, it's a huge, huge lifeline because it's where they find connection. It's where they make relationships. It's where they find support. And so, you know, my wife started those about, like 5 years ago or 6 years ago, I'm not sure, something like that. Yeah. And they've been going on, you know, continuously steady. I know there's people on this chat that have been in groups that I've been in groups with. And
there's a very parallel with overlapping community we have with some of the sages.
Yeah.
A lot of people go and visit. And we're sort of like doing a lot of the similar things. And I think we got to stay more and more connected as these times go on. Maybe have an inter-cult softball game or something like that. We get together.
Inter-cults.
The Wisdom of the Sages cult is up and fat now. Kaustubha.
Cult leader. Dangerous cult leader.
Dangerous cult. Who would bat cleanup for Wisdom of the Sages? I think AJ Sullivan. I think that guy's Roman Rodner. I could see him as one of the pitchers.
Get Papa Tony on the team. Get Mara going.
Yeah, Mara would be the catcher.
Mara's the catcher of the And then there's Henry Sholkoff. I got a feeling he can wall up the ball right over center field.
Yeah. I can see Raghu managing on the side, chewing a bunch of sunflower seeds, calling
Right.
shots.
Chewing a bunch of sunflowers, just
sunflower seeds, pulling his ears, touching his nose, touching his chin.
chewing wheatgrass. I'm always touching my nose and my ears anyway, but not for specific signals. I'm just like to touch my face.
Doyle,
The European League going too, but they don't have baseball. They'll run backwards on the bases.
Doyle, thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing this. Where can people find all this information?
You can go to bhakticenter.org/online. I mean, go to bhakticenter.org is our main website.
Yeah.
But if you go to bhakticenter.org/online, you'll specifically get to where we have all of our, all our online content, which is pretty much everything right now.
All right.
Yeah.
So El Garanga, we love you, man.
Love you
Love
too,
you.
Raghu.
Guy. Wisdom of the Sages retreat in January. Joel is one of our main teachers there, and I love you. I just have always loved you. But when people meet him, they love him to death. People were coming up to me, were like, "We love this guy."
But Raghu loved him first.
You are. What'd you say?
But Raghu loved him first.
Raghu,
I love him first.
Raghu, I remember I was in California, you mentioned with Tukram, because you were always asking, like, what are you up to? What are you doing? You want to be a yoga teacher, this or that? And I remember I was talking with Tukram because I was still a brahmachari monk. I was like, Raghunath is like asking what I'm doing with my life. And like, do I want to be a yoga teacher or something? And he was like, that's not happening. You're a brahmachari. You're a monk. Get over it.
Me and Tuke Robert started talking about starting a whole yoga school in that temple.
Yeah.
Could have been a whole different path for me.
All right.
Okay. We would have dragged Kaustubha out to Southern California. What would that be like?
I've been there.
You been there?
I have been outside of New York.
Flew over it, waved. Thank you, Doyle. And Doyle's a regular listener to Wisdom of the Sages too.
I love Wisdom of the Sages.
Another.
He sometimes texts me and sends me a funny quote or something that got mentioned. Oh, the last one you sent was Bitcoin.
Bitcoins, yes.
I said accept Bitcoins as. Thank you, Prabhu.
Love you guys.
We're gonna dive in.
Thank you,
You're
Doyle.
welcome to stay, but if you
I'm
have
staying.
important duties,
Oh, cool.
Okay, great. Thanks for staying. I can't stop laughing about Mara as the catcher of the softball team. All right, let's dive into the Srimad Bhagavatam. And if you're new to this show, welcome. This is a sacred literature of the study, the Srimad Bhagavatam. It gives direction to our yoga practice. It's the underlying teachings of the yoga practice. And why not? Life is short, and we want to upgrade the quality of our existence. Why not try to imbibe this stuff? We start off with these secret incantations. It goes something like this. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devyam saraswatim vyasam tatujaya mudiraya. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord, Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayeshva Badreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloki Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. By regular attendance to classes of the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, whose praise with transcendental songs will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Saksurudbalatam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha. We are in the first canto, chapter 18. Kaustubha, I was reading about that word Paramahamsa last night.
Paramahamsa, okay.
Yeah, so probably a lot of you guys have heard this word Paramahamsa Yogananda, or it's the Param, the supreme Hamsa, swan. They say that great souls, Bhakti-yogis, are like Hamsas or swan-like. They say the swan has the ability, if you were to pour milk in a pond, like a dirty old pond, and pour milk in it, the swan has the ability to drink out the milk from the swamp water. I don't know how they do that. I don't even know how people even notice that they do that. But they supposedly they do that. And they say that the yogi, the endeavoring yogi or transcendentalist, can be in the material world, which is a little crazy. I think it's safe to say, if you've been around the block for a few decades, you realize the material world is a crazy place. It's filled with backbiting. It's filled with
You saying
competition.
you're saying drain the swamp? It's a swamp?
It's swamp-like. It's
Okay.
pond, swamp-like, yes. But there's some good things here. And so the devotees are in that murk, but they're trying to extract the good from the crazy. They're trying to find the gold that's hidden in this crazy pit. So this is what we're doing. We're training ourselves to see the good, find what's right in this world, extract that, and sort of be in this world, but of this world. And when you really do it well, you're not just a swan. You're a Paramahamsa. You're a supreme swan.
All right. Let's work on that.
Well, yeah, we're like a work in progress. We're digging for the gold here.
Okay, well, we're hearing about two swan-like people here.
Yeah.
And then one that wasn't quite up to par. Right?
Yeah.
We're hearing about Maharaj Parikshit. He was like that. He was the king, but in his frustration, or let's say in his moment of slipping out of character, being fatigued by hunger and thirst, he kind of behaved in a way that wasn't quite him. And when he saw a sage there, he didn't realize the sage was in deep trance. And he was requesting, hey, can I get a glass of water over here? And the sage was in deep trance, and he didn't even recognize him. And then the king, on his way out, he saw a dead snake lying there. And with his bow, he reached down, picked up that snake, and wrapped it around like a garland around the sage who was in meditation. It wasn't him. He doesn't normally act that way, right?
It was out of character.
It was out of character.
Sometimes great people do things out of character.
Okay.
We don't want to condemn them, right? Sometimes there's a, what do they say in the Vedas? The Vedic analogy is sometimes there's a spot on the moon. Are you going to be mad at the moon because it's got a little speck on it? Look how beautiful the moon is. The moon lights up the entire sky. Why criticize the moon? So in the same way, sometimes even great souls may do something that appear problematic, or why are we so quick to jump on people for any shortcoming, string them up, and beat them with a stick like a piñata?
Okay.
That's what our culture does. It's like piñata, boom, boom, boom.
So what we have here now, so he made this mistake. He's a great soul. He's such an important person to the people. He was a servant of the people, a selfless servant of the people, a deeply spiritually realized selfless servant of the people. But he made that little mistake. It was wrong, no doubt. But the way two people respond to it differently. We're going to see how the son of the sage responds. That's what we're going to start to read about today.
Yeah.
He was more like the full-on cancel culture person. Where he was like, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to curse him to die.
Yeah.
And then we see the way that the sage himself, who was the person who was directly offended, right? We see how he responded very different. Okay, so shall we dive in?
Sure.
Okay.
So we are on text 30?
31, I believe,
31.
or maybe even 32, but let's read 31.
Let's read 31. Upon returning, he began to contemplate and argue with himself whether the sage had actually been in meditation, with senses concentrated and eyes closed, or whether he had just been feigning trance to avoid receiving a lower kshatriya. Oh yeah, we said this yesterday.
So yeah, he began his own maybe I did something wrong here.
Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe this guy had an issue with me. He thought he was better than me. So he's debating now.
Okay. Text 32.
The sage had a son who was very powerful. Being a Brahmin's son, while he was playing with an inexperienced boys, he heard of his father's distress, which was occasioned by the king. I guess occasion means it happened
by
because of the king. Yeah. And then and there the boy spoke as follows. There's nothing more problematic than a teenager with mystic powers. If I was a teenager, me and Kaustubha were teenagers and had mystic powers, there'd be all hell would break loose. Oh, just look at the sins of the rulers who, like crows and watchdogs at the door, perpetrate sins against their masters, contrary to the principles governing servants.
Mm. So he's feeling a sense of superiority because of his role as the Brahmana.
So the Brahmins, in one sense, they're the leaders. They're the heads of society. They're the learned ones. They're the interpreters. They're the ones who study the Sanskrit and give the purports and the dialogues.
And they're
go
meant
to them for guidance. They're the priests, the judges, the doctors.
but not only that, but they're also meant to be more in control of the mind, in control of the senses, more peaceful, more deep, you know. But it seems like for him, he was becoming more arrogant.
Yeah.
Right. Let's hear some more.
The descendant, the Brahmin's son Shringi said, "Oh, just
No. Text 34.
34. The descendants of the kingly orders are definitely designated as watchdogs and must keep themselves at the door."
So he's saying that it's up to the kings to protect people like him and his father, to just more or less to give them all facility and make sure nobody disturbs them. They should be like my watchdog. He's saying like that.
A watchdog means outside, sitting on the porch,
Yes.
not like in with the master.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then he says,
Problem with being number one in society, you get a little arrogant. It happens.
okay.
On what grounds can the dogs enter the house and claim to dine with the master on the same plate?
Okay. So, you know, the fact is that the Brahmanas are meant to be self-controlled, more learned, more, but you see, it's meant to lead towards greater humility. But we see here that it's leading to greater arrogance. So this is a part of what Srila Prabhupada wrote in the commentary. He said, this mentality of false prestige is the cause of the downfall of the perfect social order. And we can see that in the beginning of the age of Kali Yuga, it was started by the inexperienced son of a Brahmana. He doesn't even call him a Brahmana, he calls him the son of a Brahmana, because
Sort of like, yeah.
where's the humility?
You're not a real Brahmana. You're like just born
into
a family.
yeah.
But you have to earn it. Just like my father's a doctor. I'm just a son of a doctor. I'm not a doctor because he's a doctor.
Right. So yeah, he had the power to curse, right? I mean, he did have some Shakti. He was definitely like, you know, trained in that, but this influence of Kali had started, and and this boy was being influenced by that. So rather than take his role in society, which was in one sense a prestigious role,
Yeah.
and cultivate those qualities of, you know, along with the leadership, the sense of humility and servitude that comes with it, it was becoming more like a thing of false prestige for him, a thing of pride, a thing of arrogance. That's the beginning of the dark age, right? When the spiritual leaders get arrogant.
I just got a realization. Help me out here. It's not a realization. It's a question. I've been saying this word for years, this phrase, false prestige. Why?
Yeah.
Why false prestige?
What do you mean?
Why not just say prestige? Why is it false prestige? It's like saying a night owl.
Well,
it's
because,
like, owls are nocturnal. You don't have to say night owl.
Well, no, there's nothing wrong with prestige. But when you're claiming the prestige without embodying the qualities, but with, you know, by which one has earned the prestige. Right? What does the word prestige mean, Mara? Can you help us with that?
Mara? She's on
it. She's on it. She's on it.
No, she doesn't move. She just sits. I can't even see. Like,
all right.
Give her a moment.
There she is.
Yeah. Prestige. Widespread respect and admiration felt for someone or something on the basis of a perception of their achievements or quality. Okay,
so and that's the special, because it's based on the quality. That there's nothing wrong with what was it? Widespread what?
Respect and admiration.
Respect. So respect and admiration, nothing wrong with that. But when it's based not on the qualities, but say just on the position, now it's false prestige.
Okay.
Right.
I get it.
Okay.
I get it.
So text
I would make like a monumental breakthrough. We've got to change the books.
Okay, text 35.
Text 35. After the departure of Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, the supreme ruler of everyone, these upstarts have flourished, our protector being gone. Therefore, I myself shall take up this matter and punish them. Just witness my power.
Just witness my power, right?
There's a teenager talking, a teenager with mystic powers.
Well, here's the commentary from Srila Prabhupada. He says the inexperienced. What's that?
It's like Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. Okay. The inexperienced. I never read Harry Potter, so I don't know. But I guess there's curses going on and stuff like that.
There's a bunch of witch children.
Oh, and they got powers.
They've got powers. Truthfully,
Okay.
I've never seen it or watched it, but my kids and my wife watch it, so it's
All right.
going on in my household in the ether.
So when I hear this verse, I don't think about Harry Potter. I think about the angelic upstarts, right? When I hear that word upstart, what else can I think of?
That's stupid. No one even knows who the angelic upstarts are.
Some of our listeners do. Okay. The inexperienced Brahmana, puffed up by a little Brahmatajas, right? Got a little Brahminical power,
Yeah.
became influenced by the spell of Kali Yuga, right? Maharaj Parikshit gave, now if we go back to the last chapter, we read about this. Maharaj Parikshit gave license to Kali to live in 4 places, as mentioned here and before, right? But by his very expert government, the personality of Kali could hardly find places allotted to him. The personality of Kali Yuga, therefore, was seeking the opportunity to establish authority. And by the grace of the Lord, he found a hole in the puffed up, inexperienced son of a Brahmana. Now, that's an interesting way to look at it, isn't it? That the personification of the age of quarrel and hypocrisy was looking for a place to find a home.
And there it was.
And it found it in this boy. So like we can look at it and say, do I allow that influence of hypocrisy and quarrel to find a home in me, right? To find a home in my own mind, my own heart.
It's like arrogance from a, quote, higher birth.
Yeah.
Or arrogance because we're born into some wealth or some prestige.
And in this age, right, the what is it? The pauper is proud of his penny. I mean, we'll become proud of anything.
We could
Anything. Yeah. So the little Brahmana wanted to show his prowess in destruction. And he had the audacity to punish such a great king as Maharaj Parikshit. He wanted to take the place of Lord Krishna as after his departure. These are the principal signs of upstarts who want to take the place of Sri Krishna under the influence of the age of Kali. Oh, Prabhupada's going, you know where he's going here, Raghu?
Angelic upstarts?
No, he's not going. My mind goes to angelic upstarts. Prabhupada's mind does not go to angelic.
Where'd it go?
It starts to go to all these phony spiritual leaders who pose themselves as incarnations or allow their followers to speak of them as if they are a god themselves, which happens in India all the
It happens
time.
all the time in India. I'm reading a good book on it, on mystics right now. I'm not
Okay.
going to mention the name, but it's just like when it's an interesting thing, and they're all over the Himalayas. And, in
All over India.
Sikkim, Bhutan, Uttarakhand, Punjab,
Bihar.
not Bihar. So
No?
much.
Then, all right.
But they're all over, and what they do, it's a whole nother world. They even have their own language. There's a language of mystics, Sandhya Bas, it's called. They just speak up there, and in that it's a variation of Sanskrit where they actually have no words that have anything to do with business or things of the material world.
I don't know who you're talking about, but you're going.
I'm not going to
You're
tell
talking
you.
about some unusual sect. I was just talking.
No,
like-
it's the sex of the it's the sect of the mystics.
Okay.
But anyway, but because they disengage from the material, which is a pretty interesting thing, to disengage the senses from the sense objects, and they just live like these mendicants, they have access to a whole nother world. But with that the ego is still there, and therefore it's very easy to get sucked. They may not be engaged with the gross body, but that subtle body of the ego is there, and very easily either themselves or their followers say, my guru is God.
Yeah. And it may not even be that they have some mystic power like that, but they just present themselves that way, and people buy into it,
Oh, they do.
Whoever leans forward. So that he continues in the commentary. An upstart.
An upstart.
What is an upstart, Mara?
There, look that one up. Upstart.
Upstart. It's a word that's not commonly used, right?
A British word, I think.
I think it means a person that's like, he doesn't really have the qualification, but they pose as they do. They kind of like take the role that they're not qualified for, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, very close. A person who has risen suddenly to wealth or high position, especially one who behaves arrogantly.
Oh, an upstart. That's a great word.
Okay. So an upstart with a little power wants to become an incarnation of the Lord. There are many false incarnations after the departure of Lord Krishna from the face of the globe, and they are misleading the innocent public by accepting the spiritual obedience of the general mass of people to maintain false prestige. In other words, the personality of Kali, the personification of hypocrisy and quarrel, got the opportunity to reign through the son of a Brahmana, Shringi. That's his name, Shringi.
Shringi.
Okay. So we should think about that. Do I allow my own mind, my own consciousness, my own heart to become a place where the age of quarrel finds a home? Okay, text 36.
The son of the Rishi, Shringi, his eyes red hot with anger, touched the water of the river Kosika while speaking to his playmates and discharged the following thunderbolt of words. Here it goes. They always say that, like touching water. I always thought that meant like Akshman.
We got to look more into that.
Okay.
What's that water touching all about?
Okay, yeah. The Brahmin's son cursed the king thus: on the 7th day from today.
Why 7 days? We don't know, right?
Why? Well, yeah,
Why not just right off the bat? Maybe we want to make him suffer.
A snake bird. Give him 7 days. Give him 7 days just to feel it.
Okay.
A snake bird, which could mean a flying snake. We've realized there are flying snakes out there.
No.
Tree to tree. It could be a dragon.
It's like a dragon type of thing. It's just, yeah.
It's
got wings. It flies. Like with wings, not just jumping out of trees.
Are you sure it's got wings? Do you see like the Sanskrit for that? Or is it?
We can look into that, but that's the way Srila Prabhupada had them paint it.
Okay.
So at least that's there.
Okay. Today a snake bird will bite the most wretched one of that dynasty, Maharaj Parikshit, because of his having broken the laws of etiquette by insulting my father. The king should never insult the Brahmins. And the kings didn't, for the most part. The kings had the most respect for the Brahmins, not just out of fear, but just because they appreciated that what the Brahmins offer to a culture.
Earned respect.
They themselves are very cultured.
Yeah.
Raghunath Swami told me that time that we were with Raghunath Swami in Puri randomly. And he said, we had our pilgrimage there, and he was every day he said, oh, you're going to Puri? I'm going to Puri too. Can I spend time with you? I was like, Maharaj, of course. So we had a very small group, like 32 people on pilgrimage, and Raghunath Swami happened to be in Puri. So he's like, every morning I have meetings, but after the meetings, I'll spend the rest of the day with your group. And so it was a really special pilgrimage. And I said, well, what are you doing in the mornings? He goes, I'm meeting with the king of Puri. I was like, the king of Puri? What's the king of Puri like? And he said, he's a very, very cultured man, learned in all the scripture. So there's kings that are still there, and they're still trained, like in Dharma, in sacred literature. When you read about these things, you think, well, this is an ancient time and an ancient place. What the hell? Oh, I thought this lady was going to back into my car. Sorry about that. We're live here. Okay. So anyway, these are cultured kings. So they have a great appreciation for the Brahmins. Text 38. Thereafter, I'm sorry, I'm very congested today due to the ragweed. Thereafter, When the boy returned to the hermitage, he saw a snake on his father's shoulder, and out of grief he cried very loudly. O Brahmanas, the Rishi, who was born in the family of Angira Muni, hearing his son crying, gradually opened his eyes and saw the dead snake around his neck. I don't get it.
You don't get what?
He cursed him before he even saw the snake?
Yes, the boy was informed about it.
Oh, he was informed about it. Okay.
And then he did the curse. Now he got there. He saw the snake around his father's neck. He just started. He really got upset and started making a lot of noise, and that wakes his father up from his trance.
He threw the dead snake aside. His son. Why he
asked his son.
Okay. He threw the dead snake aside and asked his son why he was crying, whether anyone had done him harm. On hearing this, the son explained to him what had happened.
So look at the sage, right? He woke up and there's a dead snake around him. And he's just like, oh, what's this? And just threw it off. He didn't think, who the hell put this dead snake around me? He was just like, oh, forget this. And then he's like, what's the matter? Did something happen to you?
It's a good practical joke, wouldn't it?
But just see, right? In other words,
he was peaceful.
Exactly. He had happiness from within. This little external thing meant nothing to him. He didn't even consider it. He just took it, threw it aside, and his son's crying. Oh, there must have been did someone do something wrong to you? Now, this is the commentary. The father did not take the dead snake on his neck very seriously. He simply threw it away. Actually, there was nothing seriously wrong in Maharaj Parikshit's act, but the foolish son took it very seriously, and being influenced by Kali, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, he cursed the king, and thus ended a chapter of happy history. That was the end of the Yuga, right there.
Yep.
His curse, right? And so he did for the truly spiritual person. Little insults, they don't make a big deal of it. It's not concerning to them. But most of us, in this day and age,
we get bent.
Oh, we get so bent over any petty little thing, and we get all caught up in it. We get all absorbed in it. We fight about it. We fight verbally about it. We fight physically about it.
We resent for days, weeks, months. We never like that person again. How dare that person said that to me?
That's right.
Yeah, we write them off.
Okay, Raghu, if we move along, we'll finish this chapter today.
All right, let's keep it going.
Yeah.
My family is my children are especially into rubber snake pranks.
But of course, if we talk about rubber snake pranks, we may not finish the chapter.
We're not going to finish the chapter. I just wanted to throw that in there. The live dead snake, or the real dead snake prank would be a great prank. I'm going to tell my kids this.
Rooney did one of those dead snake pranks on me.
Mike, on you?
Yeah.
Did he get you?
No, he didn't get me.
You're like the Brahmin. You're like, big deal. Rubber snake. My wife will jump out of her jeans with a rubber snake.
Really?
I once gave her a pizza with a rubber snake in it, and it would have opened up and sort of like launched out. I tell you, she lost her marbles.
So we see where the kids get it. Okay.
All right.
Text 41.
41. The father heard from his son that the king had been cursed, although he should never have been condemned, for he was the best among all human beings. The Rishi did not congratulate his son, but on the contrary began to repent, saying, alas, what a great sinful act was performed by my son. He is awarded heavy punishment for an insignificant offense.
He's disappointed.
When young kids get mystical powers.
Look out.
Oh, my boy, your intelligence is immature, and therefore you have no knowledge that the king, who is the best among human beings, is as good as the personality of Godhead. This is what we call the divine right of kings. He is never to be placed on an equal footing with common men. The citizens of the state live in prosperity, being protected by his unsurpassable prowess. My dear boy, the Lord, who carries the wheel of a chariot, is represented by the monarchical regime. And when this regime is abolished, the whole world becomes filled with thieves. This is a standing the point for a strong government. Who then at once vanquish the unprotected subjects like scattered lambs? Due to the termination of the monarchical regimes and the plundering of the people's wealth by rogues and thieves, there will be great social disruptions. People will be killed and injured, animals and women will be stolen. It happened. And for all these sins, we shall be responsible.
He's taken personal responsibility for it himself too. Look at that. You're right.
Yeah. At that same time, the people in general will fall systematically from the path of a progressive civilization in respect to the qualitative engagements of the castes and orders of society and the Vedic injunctions. Thus, they will be more attracted to the economic development for sense gratification, and as a result, there will be unwanted population of the level of dogs and monkeys. It's just like a free-for-all. There will be no rule.
It's a free-for-all.
Have
you ever seen how monkeys behave?
We know how monkeys behave. I don't even want to get into that story of mine, but we'll pass. Text 46. Do you want to mention anything about this?
No, let's keep going. There's a little towards the end of the chapter, but I think we could wrap up the chapter, which would be nice.
All right. I know Mara and Kaustubha are hoping I don't go off on a political tangent here. So they're like, please, Raghunath, just keep reading. It's got nothing to do with defund the police. The Emperor Parikshit is a pious king. He is highly celebrated and is a first-class devotee of the personality of Godhead. He is a saint amongst royalty, and he has performed many horse sacrifices.
Which we more carefully identify those as horse rejuvenation rituals.
We've rebranded horse sacrifice.
Because they weren't killed.
They weren't killed.
Horses were given new life in those ceremonies.
Upcycled.
Yeah.
When such a king is tired and fatigued, being stricken with hunger and thirst, he does not at all deserve to be cursed. He's being compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
When the Rishi prayed to all the pervading then the Rishi prayed to the all-pervading personality of Godhead to pardon his immature boy, who had no intelligence and who committed the great sin of cursing a person who was completely free from all sins, who was subordinate and who deserved to be protected. The devotees of the Lord are so forbearing that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. Let's read that one again.
That's a big verse right there, right?
Very big verse. The devotees of the Lord, like everybody here, the Zoomers, are so forbearing. What does forbearing mean, Mara? Just like tolerant?
They bear whatever comes their way.
Sorry, give me a second on that one.
I guess that might be it. You got to be quicker.
Forbear, politely or I got it. Politely or patiently restrain an impulse to do something. Or refrain.
Tolerating their urge to respond in some way.
The devotees of the Lord are so forbearing that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they're never inclined to avenge themselves.
This is from the commentary. Rishi Shamika also knew that the Lord does not forgive a person who has committed an offense against the feet of a devotee. Right? The Lord can only give direction to take shelter of the devotee. He thought within himself that if Maharaj Parikshit would counter-curse this boy, he might be saved. But he knew that the pure devotee is callous about worldly advantages and reverses. Right? Whether things pleasant are coming away or things unpleasant, they're callous to it, meaning that, they're not, it doesn't shake them or move them. As such, the devotees are never inclined to counteract personal defamation, curses, negligence. As far as such things are concerned, in personal affairs, the devotees do not care for them. Think about that. You want to take yoga off the mat? Think about that. Right there. Right? You there, Raghu? Something happened over there. It sounded like he was dropping stuff. And now he's frozen. Hopefully he'll come back. I'll keep reading. Text 49, the sage thus regretted the sin committed by his own son. He did not take the insult paid by the king very seriously. He took what his son did seriously. He didn't take the insult to himself seriously. And then the final verse of the chapter, text 50. This is a beautiful verse. Generally, the transcendentalists, even though engaged by others in the dualities of the material world, are not distressed, nor do they take pleasure in the worldly things, for they are transcendentally engaged. Right? So it's a nice verse that the transcendentalists, these little things don't mean anything to them because they're connected to something deeper, something transcendental. And so they don't get personal insult, this or that. These things don't upset them. And all of this, what it really, what's playing out here and what's going to continue to play out as we move into the next chapter. Because in the next chapter, the word is going to get to Maharaj Parikshit, you've been cursed. You're going to die in 7 days. Why? Because you put that dead snake on the sage, and his son got all upset. And even though you don't deserve it, even though you've lived a life of selfless service and just for a moment just made the slight, did the slight wrong, you've been cursed to die in a horrible way in 7 days. And his response to it will be that he doesn't become upset or angry at the boy. He doesn't cry, this is unfair. He accepts it. And so we see here that the way that both he and the sage Shamika respond, Shamika feels like, oh, nothing was done to me that's very bad. The snake being put on me, that was no big deal. But what's really bad is that my son cursed the king. That's just terrible. And the king, Parikshit, felt like, oh, I've been cursed to die. That's not such a big concern for me. But I did such a wrong by placing that snake on top of, over the shoulders of the sage. So they were each, if we go to that verse, and maybe tomorrow we can get deeper into it, but there's one verse. There's a verse that was composed by Sri Chaitanya, who was, he's accepted in our lineage as the avatar of Sri Krishna, but really the person that inaugurated the Sankirtan movement, it's such an important, all-important figure in how we understand and practice bhakti. He composed this one verse. And this one verse is said to be so important that they call it like the Siddha mantra or the Siddha pranali, that this verse, simply by chanting, meditating on the meaning of this verse, it reveals everything. And that is Trinadapi Sunichena, Taror Iva Suhishnana, Amanena Manadena, Kirtanaya Sadahari. That one must be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. And then this next line, Amanena Manadena, ready to offer all respects to others, but not desiring, not wanting, not fighting for, no need for respect for oneself, right? I don't need to be honored. I don't need to be shown any special prestige, but I'm showing it to everyone that I meet. I'm showing respect to everyone that I meet. We see that here in both the king and in the sage, Shamika, right? I was offended. No, that's no big deal. I got cursed to die. No, that's okay. But I offended someone. That's how they're thinking. We tend to flip it the other way, right? Especially because that's the influence of this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, that we feel, I've been offended. And what I did, that's not so important. What I did to someone else isn't so important, but the way that I've been treated, that's all important. But it said that this mentality, Trinadapi Sunichena, right? To be more humble than a blade of grass, Taror Iva Suhishnana, to be more tolerant than a tree. Amanena Manadena, offering all respects to others, demanding no respect for oneself. Kirtaniya Sadahari, that in that state of mind, one can absorb the mind in kirtan, in that powerful, spiritual, transformative substance, right, without distraction, right? We can actually have the kind of mind that can become deeply absorbed when we have that kind of, when we live with that kind of, let's say, wisdom, with that kind of understanding, then and only then do these mantras and these powerful spiritual practices, do they really become deeply transformative, because our minds can become absorbed in them without distraction. So kirtanya sada hari, then one can always have their mind sada all the time absorbed in the names of Hari and the names of God. So it said that verse is our siddha pranali, it's our path to perfection. It said that one should string that mantra on like you could say the necklace of the holy name, and wear it around them at all times. Right? So in any case, when we pick up tomorrow, we'll go into the final chapter of the first canto. We're winding it up. And we're going to hear about how the king is informed about this curse and how he responds. And I don't know if Mara, if you are super on the ball and you got the music queued up, would you be?
I was doing that, but then Raghu's back now.
Oh, Raghu's back. Okay, yeah. Where is he? Raghu, where are you?
Listening to you.
All right, there you are. Let me know that you're back, okay? Doyle, thank you for coming with us today.
Yeah, Doyle, thank you. All right, so the baseball team is officially getting together. We might have to go to England and play the cricket team. Wisdom of the Sages cricket team with Mahesh and Bhavani and Nikila. Mara as the catcher. I'm still going to think about that all day. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thanks for Doyal, our special walk on Wednesday. If you like what we're doing, this is a community-supported podcast. You go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages, and you will get a vault, a treasure chest, unlocked of various goodies, live classes, workshops, trainings, various initiation techniques into our secret ways. And yeah, you become part of this entire community, including a thriving, out of control, or in control, should we say, 12-step Bhakti recovery community. They're out of control, those guys. And thanks for Kaustubha and Mara for giving me your association on a regular basis.
Raghu, thank you for you had no electricity. You ran out of your home early this morning and drove to some truck stop to do the show.
The gas station. It's accountability. Well, it's part of my Makeover Monday thing. Is I'm up at 3:30, so trying to get. I want to share my Makeover Monday stuff. It's very simple things, but it's really good.
All right.
Fold all my clothes. Keep my desk very clean.
Really?
Wake up at 3:30, and what's the last one? Oh, think of life as if I'm going to die in 5 years.
Okay.
Think of that. It's powerful.
Well, I think that's great. And you know what? I'm gonna be up there tomorrow.
Oh, that's right.
And I'm gonna have a white glove on. And I'm going to be chechking just how clean your desk is.
Hey, your clothes are unfolded, Prabhu.
I'm going to be like the drill sergeant.
Fights begin. Kaustubha's coming up north.
It's going to be inspection.
I'm going to take you swimming, too.